Hello and welcome back. I'm sure you and your organization are already experimenting with AI. Every day at Crimson, we're hearing about pilots, proof of concepts, and a flurry of new tools that claim to make our lives easier. But far fewer organizations have successfully scaled AI to deliver real enterprise wide impact. So, what's getting in the way, and what changes when organizations move from siloed experiments to something more meaningful? In this episode of the Digital Lounge, we're joined by Ollie Sinclair, CTO at Crimson. We're going to explore what it really takes to scale AI responsibly. We'll take a helicopter view across governance, operating models, culture, mindset, and leadership. I'm Mark Britton. Join me as I invite you into our Digital Lounge. So, Ollie, nice to see you. How you doing? Happy Friday.
Yeah, very good. Happy Friday, Mark. Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty good, thank you. I'm pretty good. We're producing quite a few of these podcasts at the moment, and it's great that we're getting some incredible guests on. But it's always good to have you on as well. So I'm glad you're back. So, Ollie, I wanted to talk to you today about this kind of scalability of enterprise type AI, as I kind of sort of mentioned at the top of the show. Many organizations feel they're doing AI because, they're running pilots or, they've introduced some tools. But from your perspective, what's the difference between that experimentation with AI and actually scaling it? What's the difference there?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. And don't get me wrong, I love the enthusiasm and of the C-suite or business leaders looking at AI, going, "Oh my word, wow! We're now into the reality of this capability, and they're desperate to grab it at all different levels, which is great. It's fantastic." But really, where we sit, the difference between kind of experimenting with AI and knocking something up and seeing how amazing the technology has come in leaps and bounds in the past 3 to 4 years, it's really the difference is intent and impact. So if you think about it with organizations, if they've got pilots, they've got proof of concept, effectively they're still kind of isolated tools, and you're kind of still concentrating on the features and functionalities first. So what we've seen successfully change from experimenting into actual scaling is now you're having to make the real deep considerations around what's the value. So you've got to concentrate on understanding and living and breathing with your organization to understand where your current pain points are and where the value can be. So it needs to solve real business problems. And funnily enough, when you actually look at that, you'll see that a lot of business problems, it's a combination of AI and something. It's AI and a tweak or a new way of looking at a business process, or AI and a foundational transformation element with your business organization. So you've got to solve real business problems, but also when you're looking at these tools in an experimental world, it's kind of, well, the only thing you're really trying to prove is this thing, does this thing work, and can it do some fantastic things? And everybody thumbs up, that's great. But actually, the tougher questions, let's say, the slightly more boring questions, apologies for anybody that's in governance, but it's around the other questions that you have to answer around: is it trusted? Can it be governed? And how repeatable are the initiatives and capabilities that we're identifying in these sort of proof of concepts? So once you get past that stage, so you've got the business value, that's going to drive your change. You understand that yes, it can be governed. Yes, it can be resilient to the way in which non-deterministic systems work. It then naturally just then becomes a part of how you get things done. And it is a real different consideration to completely in silo. Here's AI in a bubble, isn't it fantastic? To here's a business value that we can prove. Here's how we'll govern and control it, and this is what it means to us. And it is a big difference between the the POC world and scaling.
Yeah. I mean, Ollie, you're all over the country having lots of conversations with all kinds of organizations. In your experience, what's that moment when organizations realize that scaling AI is more complex than they expected? What tends to catch them out of that moment? It's like, oh my God, this is not what I expected.
Yeah. And hey, look, this is, we've got to be honest. We're still in the. This is a new wave. This is a new wave of technology. This is a new thought process in terms of, this isn't just a really smart application that or business application that's still in the traditional world. So there are a lot of things that have to be factored in when you're looking at operationalizing an AI solution. Technically the solution could work, but then suddenly the organization will start to see frictions, and it's trying to identify those frictions. It may well be the adoption, it was all brand new, it was brilliant, and everybody started using it, but the adoption rates might be pushing down because effectively it wasn't designed potentially with users in mind, or realistic use cases in mind, or because of this new technology, how we do business, how we do our processes will have fundamentally changed. So if you haven't taken your people with you, and they're not emotionally involved in pushing forward with the new solution, that can cause a big issue. You've also got the way in which it's governed means that there are certain scenarios you're never going to understand fully until you're into that sort of stress testing element of putting it into operations, and that might cause some blockers in terms of a change of a process or a certain tweak to the AI solution. And again, if you're not onboarded with that sort of flexibility, you will start to see those frictions just grow and grow and grow. So we say it a lot with target operating models and AI transformation, just transformation in general. In reality, scaling introduces complexities in all areas. So it increases complexity around people, so the adoption, the behavior change that you need to consider, the process, and the technology, but how it's governed. So it's people, processes, technology again and again. That's not something new, but this is a different lens on those traditional sort of operating model considerations.
Yeah, and just for the benefit of viewers and listeners, this is related to a blog post that you've posted recently on the Crimson blog. You discuss on that blog that organisations too often start with technology rather than outcomes. It seems to be a persistent trap that too many people fall into. What's going on there? Why does this keep happening? And how do we reset that conversation?
Yeah. Is it us? Is it me? Because I'm such a techie. I love the technology. Hey, look, it is exciting, and it may well be that you've got a lot of technical leaders in all industries that are incredibly passionate about the tools and the new capabilities that are coming along. The problem you have is, as a CTO and as a technology leader, you have your place to really promote those new elements. But when it comes to leadership at an organization, you shouldn't really start with where can we use AI. It should be, again, back to the same questions. What problem are we trying to solve? If you still have that core focus of, what problems are you going to solve? The CTO, the techie of the world, will sit there and go, brilliant, that's a problem. I have a much, much larger toolkit to be playing with, that actually one of, or a few of those sort of wrenches that I can hand out will be AI enabled, will be AI embedded, and will accelerate getting us to a good place. But if the focus of your organization is where can we use AI rather than we have all these problems, how do we fit organization change into those, supported by AI enabled technology sets? It's a nuance, but there's a real different focus on there. So if you start with the tool, you'll get interesting demos, you'll get fascinated capabilities explained to you, but they may have limited business value, and there's no real clear path to sit there and go, that's nice and shiny, but how do we push that into the business? But if you start with the problem, then you have a specific operational problem or a functional problem, you can define the measurable outcomes, then you assess whether AI is the right tool. And arguably, AI is going to be a brilliant tool, but it's got to be in the combination of other things.
Yeah. And again, going back to your blog, you talk about it, AI isn't just about more use cases, as valuable as that is. You talk about how it changes how an entire organization operates. So I'm curious to know, what does a mature operating model for AI look like in practice? Let's jump forward a few years. What does that sort of model organization look like?
Yeah, I think that what's good is that we're starting to experience this. We've experienced it internally in terms of our operational efficiency programs that we've been doing to make sure AI is embedded in the right way to increase our business value. And we've learnt lessons with other clients of ours. Now, a mature operating AI operating model really focuses on turning the innovative part, the innovation, into the repeatable, governed process. And it kind of starts. It's in 5, and a really high level summarization. There's lots of detail in this, but it's really 5 areas or 5 quality gates that you go through. As I said before, you've got to identify the business challenge you're going for. That's the first and foremost. You've got to get there with that. You have to assess the value and feasibility. Now, that's really interesting. When you look at AI, the capabilities could be absolutely fantastic, but it may take up an inordinate amount of AI tokens to actually get to that capability. And is there the return on investment for us to actually do that? So value and feasibility is very important in that second part. Then you're into applying the right governance. Once you've selected that suite of tools that you're going to embedded AI in an initiative that you're going to be pushing across, or an AI solution that you're going to be building, you then have to govern. So it's security, the ethics, the compliance, the control, and some of the traditional things that you would be doing in a transformation program of work. You steal those ideas and make sure it's focused on this one. Then the fourth part is, yes, designing and testing the solution, but designing and testing based on knowing that the solution will include non-deterministic elements. So there's a nuance to how we design and test that. We're thinking about the patterns, we're thinking about the resilience, rather than just does 1 + 1 = 2, well then it passes and away we go. There's some more theoretical resilient testings that you need to do. And then the fifth one, which potentially is always kind of slightly ignored or expected but never really monitored and maintained, which is driving that adoption and change. So yes, the amount of times we say it, the technology is the easy part. It is, but if you've got the adoption and change management correct, that is how you do those 5 elements in the right way. Lots of detail behind those 5 elements, but if you've got a strategy that explains how your organization can get there, that's where you go from an embedded AI solution in silo to a really well run sort of embedded AI in all of your business processes. Now, here's the interesting thing. The nuance on that would be, okay, but then how do we start that in the early stage? Fine, we've got a load of proof of concepts, and actually maybe there's a centralized AI team. Start to have a consideration about how you stretch that to be slightly more federated, so that the AI innovation and how you're embedding AI is more within the individual business units themselves. So you federate out from a centralized sort of experienced model. And that's really going to be where you're going to get the true value of laying that on.
And where do you see organizations struggling the most? I talked about at the top about governance. There's ownership over it. There's the decision making. Of those kind of 3 elements, where do you see organizations struggling the most? So governance, ownership, decision making.
Yeah, for me, it's governance. It definitely, the key shift is to see governance kind of as an enabler of scale, rather than a restricted quality gate that you have to go through. Governance will be the key to lay down the right guardrails to then push and accelerate. So a lot of people do see, me included, governments is sometimes you sit there and it's a bit of a tick box exercise, but that actually can guide you through into some real innovation at scale. So if you build governance alongside your innovation track, not after it, then the guardrails are already there for the acceleration. So you standardize some things that you would have to standardize, like you'd standardize data access, you'd standardize like the security, the testing approaches, all of these things. There'll be repeatable ways in which you will build and test and run AI solutions. But if you've got the governance as sit alongside innovation, those guardrails are built at the same time rather than afterwards, and then it feels like a stalling effect because you've done all of this fantastic work and then somebody comes along with a hammer and knocks out and say you haven't thought about this, you haven't governed this, you haven't sorted your data or your security out. So they've got to be in tandem, and if they are, you'll see that the road is paved a lot clearer to actually push that scale out.
Yeah, as you say, I mean, it can feel like a blocker sometimes, but they're important foundations. So have you got examples of the right controls we need to put in place to ensure that governance is there without slowing down or that innovation or frustrating teams?
Yeah, so we're working with a local authority at the moment where we did a lot of piloting and a lot of pilot solutions, a lot of pilot AI solutions, and we've kind of we've seen the business value, which is nice. We've got the business value from that. We focused on that. But there are a lot of factors that you have to measure in, certainly with a high compliance industry as is. Even if we were to do a non-AI solution, there's a lot of governance and compliance. So with a local authority, we've gone on the route of starting with sort of the high impact areas that are minimizing the scope and risk. So we've gone for areas where you've embedded AI in a solution, but the risk of that solution sort of falling over, it is not going to be as painful as, say, for example, something that was exposed to your customers, and then the rigor and the risk of doing those, the security and sanity checks of doing those. So there are ways in which you can start simpler with some internal AI solutions that start to pave that governance road, and then start to go into the more complex area. The important part is you can't sacrifice the business value for just doing the simple stuff. If all you're doing is concentrating on the easy, less risky stuff, the chances are a lot of those won't be as much business value. So you still have to go on those 5 stages. But what we've seen is if you have the high impact areas that have slightly lower risk, you build your governance with those so that you have at least a chance to get the other maybe higher riskier areas pushed through at the same velocity. So yeah, have to think about different ways of trying to factor that in.
Okay, I'm going to sort of shift gears now and talk a little bit about people and culture. And anecdotally, I mean, I know we were at an event a while ago with local authorities, and a couple of them were talking about the concern around the environmental impacts of AI, which is obviously a legitimate concern. So it's important to factor in that people challenge, isn't it? So I suppose what changes when an organization starts taking adoption and culture more seriously? Clearly that's important.
It really is. It really is. And it's that, gone are the days where if we build it, people will use it. I can't see those situations happening anymore. And it's a really big mistake that the organizations sort of dip into, and it becomes a really bad outcome. In reality, Gen AI will introduce new behaviors. Outputs won't be 100% deterministic all the time, and people will need training and the trust in that solution, and the context of why and how they should be using those solutions to make sure the adoption is going to be led in the right way. So it's, don't get me wrong, it's hard, and we're technology leaders. Crimson are technology leaders in this space, and we are not immune to that. The pace of change of technology, certainly in the Gen AI space, is mental. And you've got to balance how much you're doing with how much your organization, your people, your culture are able to adopt and change to that. But there are little things that you can do to sprinkle in some success factors in this. Championing change inside teams is massive, and taking them on the journey and explaining why AI exists, not just how it works. Like what's the fundamentals behind that, sometimes can give clarity so that they can understand the context. And again, it's back to that trust element. And if you could find a way of emotionally taking your people and culture on that journey, it becomes way more organic in terms of how they grow, and it's not forced. But the massive benefits of that is you'll find that the innovation tap just opens up, because they understand the context, because they're trusting these technology sets. They will all sit there and go, oh, if we could do this, we could then solve this problem, we can solve that problem, we can solve this problem, could it do this problem, could it be a solution to some other things? And that's when organically you just then start growing at scale, and that's when the IT guys get a headache, because they're inundated with possibilities of what to be done. So yeah, which is great.
Yeah. That's brilliant, and it's good timing, because I created another AI agent today. I won't go into all the details and bore listeners now, but I'm creating AI agents, and it's a tool on my desktop. It's going to save some time. It's going to guide hopefully it's going to be something that's useful to my colleagues when they're doing their bit of work that works, that prepares things that gets passed to my team. So yeah, amazing. And Ollie,
that's a brilliant point though, Mark. That is a brilliant point. And scaling AI isn't about more pilots. It's about embedding the intelligence in everyday operations. So if you see it and you sit and go, well, I can build this, but here's the reasons why. I can get my team to do this, and this, and as long as it's governed with the right culture, you're going to start to see that more and more and more, it's the perfect way of doing it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've got SharePoint internally, of course. I can connect it to all of our knowledge. It's really interesting. It's a mindset shift, I think. Now it's on my desktop, and I was trying to work out how to build a simple process for this particular piece of work, and naturally that's now starting to come into the way you think about how you solve the problem. So yeah, it's good.
Yes.
I'm glad to share an example. So I just wanted to leave with this sort of last question, really. I mean, we work with clients at all stages on this journey, and as you've acknowledged today, this is ever evolving. We're on sort of a new horizon here. So I mean, how do we help organizations scale AI responsibly? What's our approach if somebody were to give us a call today?
Yeah, and this is the fun bit for us, right? We love learning this stuff, and we love sharing this stuff with our clients. And what we want to be doing is helping our clients move from that sort of fragmented experience to structured, scalable adoption. And really, we are capable of helping them define those clear outcome-led use cases. So we can sit there right at the beginning, right at the initial part, to say, where's your problems, guys? What are you suffering from? What are you dealing with? We'll deep dive into those areas and help them curate what we think an outcome-led use cases are, and then establishing that governance right on the beginning, so that we know that it's not just going to be a scattergun approach, that there'll be some repeatability to this, and having that repeated operating model to rely on. So when the innovation starts coming in, when these outcome-based use cases start flooding in, we will support them with the skills, helping them with that sort of culture and adoption program, and then leveraging the technology platforms. Because hey, look, we're the experts of the technology sets. We're massively supported by Microsoft, in lockstep with their vision and what they're doing in this technology world. And we're sat there being the translation engine from a technology perspective, helping your organization. So leveraging Copilot Studio, leveraging M365 Copilot, and Co-work, which is GA a couple of days ago, which I'm super excited about.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's it's going to be really, really good. But yeah, that's really where we're very, very passionate about, utilizing this brilliant wave of tech to solve the problems of our customers.
Amazing, Ollie. Well, we'll have to get you back on to so you can share a little bit more about that news from Microsoft really soon. But until then, happy Friday. I hope you have a lovely weekend, and we'll see you again on the Digital Lounge. Thank you.
You too. Thank you, Mark.
All right. Cheers. Thanks, Ollie. Okay, there you go. So it's all about building those strong foundations. What I just wanted to mention, I've been plugging this a few times on the show, is the AI readiness assessment that you can take, and I've actually got an example with me for viewers watching the show. It only takes literally 3 minutes. That's the average time it's taking people to complete this questionnaire, but it provides a really valuable report with a score, an overall score, and it scores you on 4 key areas around strategy, leadership, data and insights, service and operations, people and culture. So it gives you a really interesting perspective on where you are with your roadmap for AI. And if you get your colleagues to do that as well, we can come in and build a complete picture of how different parts of your organization are thinking about AI. So that's something to have a look at. You can try that completely free and download the report immediately. That's at assess.crimson.co.uk/AI-ready. So yeah, check that out. That's it for today. We'll see you again very soon on the Digital Lounge. Have a great rest of your day.